Welcome, everyone. So, in our big journey through the Mandarin language, there are few things more important, more foundational, than the art of a good introduction. Really, it's the gateway to every single conversation, right? It's that first bridge we build. Today, we're going to go way beyond just memorizing phrases. We're going to truly understand the structure, the sound, and, the soul of these first critical interactions. So here's our roadmap for today's session. First, we're going to set a very practical goal for ourselves. Then, we are going to systematically deconstruct the three core questions of pretty much any introduction: name, nationality, and, of course, age. You'll see how each section really builds on the one before it, leading us to what I think is the most important piece of the whole puzzle, the cultural context that gives these words their real meaning. All right, let's dive in.
Okay, before we even look at a single character, it's so important that we understand our objective here. This isn't just some abstract theoretical lecture. Think of this as practical training. It's designed to get you ready for a real-world task that, believe me, you'll be doing very, very soon.
So, here it is. Your mission is to conduct a class survey. Simple, right? You'll be going up to your peers, asking for their name, their nationality, and their age. Now, I know that sounds incredibly straightforward, but as we're about to see, asking these questions in a way that is effective and, more importantly, polite requires a really deep understanding. It's not just about the words, but the grammar, the sounds, and the cultural etiquette that's humming just beneath the surface. This activity, this is the why behind everything we are about to cover.
Let's start with the most fundamental question of all. A person's name. It's really the first piece of their identity that they offer to you. So learning how to ask for it and ask for it properly, well, that's your first real step toward having a meaningful conversation.
So the phrase is, 你叫什么名字? Listen really closely to the tones. 你叫什么名字? Let's do that one more time. 你叫什么名字? Okay, now let's do what we do best and break this sentence down character by character so we can really see the elegant logic at play.
Okay, this is where it gets really cool, because the characters themselves tell a story. So first up, 你, that's you, and you can see that little person radical on the left, right? Simple enough. Then we have 叫, to be called. It's got the mouth radical, 口, which just makes perfect sense. You call someone with your mouth. 什么 is our go-to question word for what. But oh, look at 名字, which means name. The character Ming is just fascinating. It's a combination of Si, which is the character for evening or dusk, plus Kol, the character for mouth. So why? Well, think about it. In ancient times, long before electricity, when it got dark, you couldn't see who was there. So what would you have to do? You'd have to use your mouth to call out their name. It's brilliant. It just shows you how ancient life is literally baked right into the modern language. Now let's talk grammar for a second. The structure here is subject-verb-object, or SVO, which should feel like very comfortable territory for English speakers. You, the subject, are called, the verb, what name, the object. You see it? 你, S, plus 叫, V, plus 什么名字, O. This direct logical structure is a real cornerstone of Mandarin grammar, so it's so important to get this pattern locked in your brain. You're going to see it over and over again. All right, let's sharpen our pronunciation. A really common trap for beginners is that third tone on ni. It's not a flat sound like ni, and it's definitely not a question like ni. It has to have a very clear dip and then a rise. Ni. Just practice that a few times. The second point is the neutral tone. See, in Shinma and Mingzi, those last syllables, me and zi, they're totally unstressed. They're quick, they're light. It isn't shenmei, it's shenma. It's not mingzai, it's mingze. Just listen to that rhythm. Ni jiao shema mingze? The flow is absolutely key. Okay, moving right along. After you've learned someone's name, a really natural next step is to ask where they're from. And this question, it goes a little deeper into their identity, right? It connects them to a place, a history, a culture. And the question is, 你是哪国人? Listen to those tones again. 你是哪国人? It's this fantastic little series of tonal shifts. So let's peel back the layers on this one and see how it's built. Let's analyze these characters because they are just packed with meaning. 是 is our fundamental verb to be. Is, am, are. It's all about establishing identity. Then we have na, our question word for which.
But honestly, the real poetry is in the last two characters. First, guo, meaning country. I mean, look closely. Inside that big boundary radical, qua, what do you see? You see the character for jade, you. A country is a precious territory. It's a treasure to be guarded within its borders. And finally, ren, person. This is one of my favorite characters. It's a perfect little pictograph. You can literally see two legs walking. So the question, when you put it all together, is really, you are which precious territory person? Beautiful, right? The grammar here introduces another absolutely golden rule in Mandarin. A, sure, B. This is the main way you state identity or equivalence. A is B. So to answer the question, you just slot your identity right in. For example, 我是美国人. I am an American person. But you can use this for anything. 我是 your name. 我是老师. I am a teacher. Seriously, master this A is B structure. It is your best friend.
All right, let's work on the sounds. That sh in sh is so important. It is not the soft English sh like in shoe. To make this sound, your tongue needs to be flat and way farther back in your mouth. Sh, sh. It's a harder, more forceful sound. Try it. Next, that second tone on guo has to rise clearly. Guo, not gua, but guo. Now, a quick note on tone sandi. That's tone changes. You probably know that in a phrase like ni hao, when you have two third tones back to back, the first one changes to a second tone. But here in ni shi na guo ren, our third tones ni and nar are separated by shi. So guess what? No change. They both keep their full, dipping third tone, ni and na.
Okay, we've arrived at our third question. And this, my friends, is where we shift gears from pure linguistics into cultural competency. Asking someone's age in Mandarin is, grammatically speaking, incredibly simple. Culturally, though, it's a minefield. It's really complex, and you have to navigate it with care. The phrase itself couldn't be shorter. 你多大?你多大? That's it. 3 little syllables. 你多大. This is the standard, totally normal, informal way you'd ask someone who seems to be about your age, like, say, a fellow student in our survey activity.
The key component here is the set phrase 多大. Now, if you translate it literally, it means how big. I know, that sounds a little strange to us, but it is the standard way to ask about age. The idea that bigness or size is connected to seniority is actually pretty common in many East Asian cultures. And this phrase, well, it's a little linguistic echo of that deeper cultural value system. The pronunciation here is pretty straightforward, but you gotta be precise. For 多, make sure you really round your lips to get that clean O vowel sound. 多, not 多. Now, the most critical part is the fourth tone on da. It needs to be a short, sharp, falling tone. Da. Almost like you're chopping something. Da. This is also a perfect example of how Mandarin asks questions. We don't use a rising intonation at the end of the sentence like we do in English. The question is all packed into the words themselves, in 多大. So the sentence actually ends with a definitive fall. 你多大? We've now reached what I would argue is the most important part of this entire explainer. Because look, you can have perfect grammar, you can have flawless pronunciation, but if you don't have cultural understanding, your words can end up feeling empty, or even worse, they can be unintentionally disrespectful. Language just does not exist in a vacuum. So the whole game is knowing when it's okay to ask, 你多大?你多大? This slide is your survival guide. In a peer setting, like our classroom survey, you're fine. Asking classmates, friends, people who are clearly your age, go for it. But, and this is a big but, you must avoid asking this question of people in positions of authority or seniority. Do not ask your professor. Absolutely do not ask your boss. And, as a general rule, just don't ask anyone who is obviously older than you or a stranger in a formal situation. So why is this? Well, in Chinese culture, there is a very deep-rooted respect for elders and a strong sense of social hierarchy. If you directly ask an elder their age, it can come across as presumptuous, almost like you're trying to size them up or figure out where they fit. It can cause them to lose face. Your intention might be totally innocent, but the impact can be one of deep disrespect. This is non-negotiable for anyone who wants to successfully live or work in a Chinese-speaking environment. So how do we put this all together and do it politely?
Let's walk through the flow of a great introduction. First, you always start with a simple, polite greeting. 你好. Second, if you want to be extra polite when asking their name, and you do, add the magic word 请问 at the beginning. It just means, may I ask? So, 请问你叫什么名字? It just softens the whole interaction. Third, and this is so important, is reciprocity. As soon as they tell you their name, you immediately offer yours. 我叫. This shows you're open and it builds rapport instantly. And finally, you can move on to other questions like nationality, but always remember to approach the topic of age with that cultural awareness we just talked about.
And just like that, we have come full circle. We started out with a simple goal of a class survey, but look where you are now. You don't just have 3 phrases memorized. You have the linguistic tools to understand how they're built and how to say them correctly. And even more importantly, you now have the cultural map to navigate the social side with respect and with intelligence. You are absolutely ready for your mission.
You know, there's a wonderful Chinese proverb that says, to learn a language is to have one more window from which to look at the world. And that just perfectly captures what we've tried to do today. We haven't just learned words, we've opened a tiny window into the cultural values and the history that have shaped the Chinese worldview. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought as you get ready to start your survey activity. How does knowing the story behind a character like Miam, or understanding the cultural weight of asking someone's age, how does that change not just what you say, but how you say it? Really think about that as you go out there and make your first introductions. Good luck.